Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review of One Piece episode 900. And pretty much before I even get into the review itself, I may as well answer the question: episode 900 was, if it pretty much was, if it was in any sense of the word, pretty much the milestone we were kind of expecting, and not. It was pretty much fine, but I think if there, I want to say if with the anime, if there was, if there was ever gonna be like a pretty much a big like milestone episode, I think it would be, I think it would be like I think it would be pretty much the I think it would be I think it would be the pretty much like pretty much thousandth episode where, or we'd get a really great epic episode, but but as is, the episode is still pretty good. Yeah, and honestly, just the fact that we've reached 900 episodes is yeah, kind of nuts in itself. Um, so let's get into the episode itself. Now, the episode started off with Zoro and Luffy not so subtly like pointing out O-Kiku's height, and this is one of those things where, looking back, I can't believe I never realized how blatant the clues actually were when it came to who O-Kiku is, or for that matter how pretty much they were, how pretty much Oda was how much the clues themselves were actually staring right back at me. But yeah, this was definitely not one of. But yeah, just looking back on the whole O-Kiku thing, this was definitely not. This was definitely not one of Oda's more subtle foreshadows. Looking back on it, it was definitely one of his more blatant ones, if I'm being honest with you. Um, and honestly, it doesn't even just stop with pretty much O-Kiku, but also, but pretty much also the other important foreshadow, in order to take away from the other bit of important foreshadowing to take away from this episode, is that is pretty much when you pretty much see like pretty much Tsuru like pretty much talking with basically Luffy and Zoro, and giving that little history lesson in terms of Wano, and basically Odin's and basically Odin's rule over Wano. You pretty much realize something isn't exactly adding up in this timeline when you pretty much when you see it. You pretty much you pretty much see that pretty much 20 years ago, pretty much Tsuru says outright that 20 years ago Odin ruled. That Odin ruled. That for 20 years Odin had ruled, or 20 years ago Odin ruled. But what isn't exactly adding up in this timeline is when you realize, hey, Momo and Kinemon are pretty young, at least if that 20-year thing is to be believed. So yes, something, you definitely clue in that something is definitely up here. Now, pacing wise, the episode was arguably better than pretty much last week or the week before, probably. But even if that wasn't the case, one thing I really liked with this episode is that it pretty much gave us it gave us some pretty cool character moments, and most of them were coming out of Tama, and how she interacted with Tsuru. Because within those moments, especially the whole argument of the red bean soup, we pretty much see just how we honestly, one thing we really see is that Tama is honestly abnormally humble and basically honorable, to the point where it really doesn't matter. Like with Tama, we really get the sense in this episode that it really doesn't matter to her if she dies from starvation, as long as anything she does isn't a burden to others. And in some anything she does, whether it's eating, working, whatever else, as long as she isn't a burden to those people, it's she as long as the burden to the as long as she's not a burden to those others, like she pretty much doesn't care. And in some ways, it makes her foolish and prideful. But in other ways, with these character moments we pretty much got with Tama in this episode, it also shows that even if Tama is just a child, you could make a very legitimate argument that she understands a lot of the severity of what's going on like better than most adults. Where her thinking was definitely flawed, however, is her stubborn belief that her body could pretty much survive without food in the same way that pretty much adults can. Like pretty much Tama is at the end of the day a child, and her starving herself is basically not healthy. Like in her desire pretty much not to be a burden and make sure everyone has everyone else survives. She pretty much just keeps forgetting that simple fact that from she is a child, and her body pretty much needs, and her body pretty much needs a lot more food in order to survive. And in that sense, like another interesting thing you could argue with that whole thing of what Tama's belief and whatnot. You could argue that there's a legitimate lesson that most children end up that most children when they're younger end up kind of believing that they're young, they're vibrant, and they're practically and they think they're practically invincible, but when the chips are down, yeah, they end up discovering that they're pretty much the same as everyone else, just and to a degree a little weaker. So yeah, with Tama, it was really just a matter of accepting her pretty much her own limits in this case. Although although going back to that whole thing about most adults ending up being able to survive like longer than Tama, that for the most part is true. But when it comes to Luffy, he's the one exception because he's the only person who basically can't go 2 seconds without food. Seriously, obviously he showed more self-control in this episode, but yeah, the man has no self-control when it comes to food, especially meat. You put a hunk of meat in front of that guy, he'll slobber it up. And yeah, this episode gave us a pudgy Batman, which obviously the character in himself, he's one of Kaido's men who has the zone powers of a bat, but just looking at the design of that guy, it kind of makes me wonder if Oda is or was at any point in time a fan of the Batman character, because it definitely feels like there's at least some influence with pretty much that pretty much design. Although whether it's coincidental or not is I guess the bigger thing. But yeah, just from a design like that, it does make me wonder if Oda is or was at any point a fan of the Batman character. Now putting his design away, now putting his design to the side for a second, his introduction as well as the introduction of basically that guy with the powers of like a gazelle, I guess. From guy with the powers of gazelle who kidnapped Tama. With the introduction of these two, it gives us an idea of just how powerful, like even the weakest, like from Smile enhanced pirate in Kaido's crew are. And if these are only soldiers, it's kind of scary to think as to what the main force of Kaido's crew is like. Judging from the preview, it looks like we're definitely gonna get a little taste of that next week. Well, kinda. In terms of the next big fight that's going on, that was teased this week. Yeah, that fight is when I first saw it, it was kind of iffy. So hopefully the anime can pretty much do something with it. Um, Also, I gotta talk about the guy who with the gazelle powers for a minute, and maybe it's just his fashion sense, and I'm not gonna claim to know any or criticize anyone's fashion sense, but just the fact that the guy with the gazelle powers was wearing stockings and just his overall outfit makes me wonder if he was at any point a resident of from Kamabaka Kingdom. Probably, like he probably wasn't, but I couldn't help but wonder. Just from 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 overall get up he was in. Like, yeah, I was really getting those like from Kamabaka those Kamabaka Kingdom vibes or something like that. He probably wasn't, but yeah, just his outfit just kind of just gave off that vibe to me. Um, and and one little tidbit that was from dropped by the and what a little one little tidbit that was dropped by the from Bat Zone user is that we keep hearing about this thief who's stealing from like Orochi, and Zoro again right now is suspect number one. But looking back, this is one of those times I realized how little I was paying attention, because now, and the reason why I say that is because now, like revisiting this in the anime, it's completely clear to me who the identity of the thief is, and it was so hilariously and it's one of those things where it's so hilariously obvious, especially when you pretty much look at it in the context of this particular person like willingly almost kind of almost like pretty much willingly choosing in order to use Zoro as the fall guy. Like, damn, that like from Zoro, he pretty much got done dirty by this person. Like, and yes, it is someone that from Zoro knows. So yeah. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I've got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. That and that of me. Signing off. Later, guys.